Well, it's great to like speak to everybody. I'm really excited to be back. I got an opportunity to present to you guys a little while ago, and it was really awesome. So it makes it a lot of fun for me with that to have that opportunity to just kind of come back and just kind of do this thing because it is a lot of fun. So you guys are going to hear a lot of people kind of talk at you and share a lot of stuff. And for me, like the way I like to talk is I like to talk through my trumpet. And so I figured rather than launch it into a big thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Figure might as well play for you guys a little bit, right? So this is a great tune. It's called Bernie's Tune. It's written by Bernie Miller from 1952, and is recorded by the great Chet Baker and Jerry Mulligan. They had this great quartet that had no piano in it, and I really loved it. So I love it since I figured I just kind of play it for you guys here. Let me make sure my rhythm section is set up here, which is essentially just my iPad playing some stuff because of the way everything is right now. We don't get to play together that much, but although I am playing a live gig tomorrow, which will be fun. Anyways, yeah. So here we go. This is Bernie's tune. I hope you guys dig it. Let me. Oh yeah, that felt good. Nothing like opening up with a little bit of jazz in the morning. It's like best thing in the world. I love it. I love getting up in the morning and just like throwing some jazz on and going through because it makes it so good. So okay, let's talk a little bit about me because who doesn't like talking about themselves, right? So this next tune or the next slide here is going to talk a little about my bio. So I actually grew up in Mission Viejo, California, which is in it's a small Spanish hamlet, if you will. No, not really. But it's a town in Southern California in the south of Orange County. And I graduated from the high school there, Mission Viejo High School, in the year 2000. And from there, I went to the University of North Texas, which is in Denton, Texas, just north of Dallas. And I studied there. I studied jazz studies, where I got to play in this really great ensemble called the 2 O'Clock Lab Band. And I got to like tour around a bunch and play with them. And I got my bachelor's of music there. And then from there, I went to the University of Southern California, which is in Los Angeles. And I got a master's and my doctorate in jazz studies. And the beauty of it is, like, whenever we talk about jazz studies, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but what I just did too is we call that improvising, right? So whenever I went to play, I played the tune, the short little tune. And then for what we call choruses, I took 2 courses of just solos, essentially, where I just made it up. I was just making it up through the whole thing. You know, it's essentially like I got a degree in BSing my way through everything, which is great, and we'll talk more about definitely about how MUN helped me learn how to do that. But no, it's a really good thing. And so, yeah, I got my master's and my doctorate there. The other thing I did while I was there that I really enjoyed was I had this opportunity to work with the USC marching band. And so for 10 years, I spent time as the assistant director of the USC marching band. And I was also one of the music arrangers for the band, so I would arrange for that. And I was also one of the drill designers as well. And you can see that's a photo of me right there with a bunch of the band members and then one of my other teaching friends. And we're actually in the stadium at Notre Dame whenever the band played against Notre Dame. So it was a lot of fun. And, so I figured I would show you guys a video of a time whenever I actually got featured with the band playing some high notes, which really, is a fun thing to watch. So as you can ask Mr. Eckert there, he'll definitely tell you about, because he played trumpet for a while, about how great the high notes are. So check this out. Oh yeah. Don't act like you're not impressed, yeah, so, I think for a lot of people, like, it's hard to understand as, being an American, like, American football is this like huge thing. Like American football is as big as soccer, as we call soccer football, right? It's as big as that is in the rest of the world, right? So for us, like it's really, really, this is like a really big thing. And there's a pageantry about that, especially about like the collegiate level of football. that surrounds all we always play these games on Saturdays, and Saturdays in the fall is like that's like football day, you know. So we do college foot they do high school football on Friday, college football on Saturday, professional football on Sunday, and it's just one of the coolest things in the world, right? So yeah, I mean, going along, like I'll just talk a little more about, you know, just so you guys have credentials and I like can prove that I actually know what I'm talking about, right? Like you know, I had a bunch of like other just amazing I've had a bunch of other like amazing opportunities. So like I've gotten to record and perform with some of like some pretty amazing people. Like Michael Bublé, I was on one of his last albums. The Group of Monsters of Men, I was on like a bunch of their. I've been on a bunch of their stuff, and like, you know, I every once in a while walk into a place and I like hear myself. I'm like, oh my god, there I am. It's pretty cool. Dream Theater, Alicia Keys, Radiohead. I played with those guys at the Grammy Awards, which was a lot of fun. And then some of like the biggest names in jazz, as well as I got to spend 2 weeks with the HR Big Band, which is a radio band in Frankfurt that I really loved. It was like a great time. I also I also was the staff arranger and the first trumpet player in the Los Angeles Laker band. And I did that for 14 years, and that was great too. I got a chance to like see a bunch of amazing stuff. I was there when Kobe Bryant scored 81 points. I was there when the Lakers won Game 7 against the Boston Celtics in the stadium. I was like there. It was so amazing. I really love that. You know, and I actually got to blame. I have to blame Cody Eckert, his brother Noah. Actually, it's all his fault that I'm as big of a basketball fan as it was. Because like when we were little kids, we used to sit around and watch the Lakers. So I'm a huge basketball fan. And then, you know, I worked for these other guys. I worked for some other guys who are in there. George Benson, who's like a legend as well. And then I got to actually write a cue that was recorded by Jamie Cullum in a movie called Going in Style. That was really fun. And then, you know, I've gotten a chance. I've written a bunch of music for TV and movies and records. It's really, really been a cool thing for me. And so that comes to me. It's like, you know, after we kind of talk about like, yeah, like, okay, this is like all neat. Like, but whenever I was in high school, I mean, MUN was an incredibly important part of what I wanted to do. Like that was really everything for me. And so I only really worried about two things. I worried about playing music. I love that. And I really enjoyed MUN. And so Model UN for me was a really important time because I began to learn who I was, and I learned how to basically perform and speak in front of people, which is that is what I do. That's what I do with my life, right? So it's a very important process and a very important thing. So you know, while I was there, I was in obviously for 4 years from 96, and I got to travel to a bunch of places. I went to a UN conference every year at UC Berkeley. I also went to the one that was at Harvard. I went to one that was in Beijing at the time, which that was like, you know, you got to remember this is like the late 90s, right? So that was like crazy that like we would get to go to Beijing and do Mall UN conference. And then I also got to go to the conference in New York that was hosted at the UN. And that was just an unbelievable beautiful thing. You know, it's definitely like the way it was. And you know, and just to prove to you guys like how good I was at it, you know, I did win 22 awards and 6 gavels. So, you know, I'm just saying. But no, I really did enjoy everything about it. It was a very incredible time for me, and you know, I got to travel to a lot of places. So I got to travel with music, and I got to travel with with Model UN. And not only that, not only did I do just traveling around the United States, but I got to travel outside the country, which was really important for me. Um, you know, I really learned how to develop my public speaking skills in terms of how to engage and how to speak clearly, enunciate, project. But not only that, like how do you connect with the people that you are speaking with, right? And that's really what we're getting at here is what we want to do is we want to connect at all times with the people that we're speaking to. And so what was great about MUN is it made you just go out there and go for it, right? It was like, you know, you could go out and you could make mistakes, right? Like if I was representing, like, let's say I was representing Guinea-Bissau, which was like, I remember I won the gavel on the Security Council of Guinea-Bissau, right? Big time deal, right? I couldn't believe it. I won it with that, right? But I remember, you know, you could go and you could be Guinea-Bissau and you could say things and maybe that you made mistakes, but it didn't matter, right? Because like in the end, like if I say something like wrong or whatever, what, I just don't win an award or something like that. I'm not starting like an international, event, right? If I do something wrong. So it was actually really good for me because you get that experience and you get that opportunity to kind of get out there, speak your mind, and you can make these mistakes so you can learn from them when they actually don't have this giant impact on what's going on in the world, right? And it also was learning about how to do your homework and how to sound intelligent and how to speak, speak in a way that connects with people by utilizing facts and figures and truths, which as someone who lives in the United States, I want so badly right now from my politicians, it also helped me to appreciate, learn, and how to handle a fear and anxiety of public speaking, which also helps me with my performing, right? Whenever I'm like in the event of having any performance anxiety, it's like I've learned how to handle that. I've learned the skills to get around that. So whenever I go, I can always give my best performance and have a good time. Right. And what's important about the public speaking, it just makes you just got to go out there and you got to do it. I know it seems weird. I know it's scary, but we always have to remember that things sound scarier. Things sound more worrisome. They sound more intense before you do them. And then once you do them, they're actually no way as bad as what you built them up in your mind, right? So that's what I learned. These are great things that I learned about public speaking and performance and all that aspect. I also learned a lot about how the world connects, and that's a really important thing, because I know for a fact, and not even just talking about just like the global setting that we're in right now, but you know, for me, whenever I was growing up, we weren't our world here where I grew up in the United States, especially in the West Coast. I mean, it was much more about kind of what was just happening in your own little bubble of your world. And for me, I began to learn about stuff through Model UN that I would have never learned of before. Like this was before I could just go on YouTube and like watch the news and learn about what's happening in the world and how people are reacting and learn about other cultures and other ideals, right? And there's a time when you're really locked into what is actually happening in your bubble, your world. And so what it provided for me is I got to learn more about the world and how the world itself connects. Understanding how there are these different cultures and these different worldviews and these different ideas of what is best in how we live as society. And what was great about it was I learned the fact that like there are great things about other cultures and other ideas, and that what may be presented to me as something where it's like, well, no, like, you know, capitalism and this and all that is the only way. You start to be able to look out and understand that there are other ways of looking at it that aren't destructive in a way when they're done correctly, right? And there's a lot to that, but we have to understand that with international relations there's so many moving parts and everything's changing all the time because we're getting new leaders all the time all over the world. It does make it a lot more difficult and a lot more interesting, and we start finding that it's more intense, right? So it really did help me to learn more about the world rather than just what I see just in my little bubble, which was great and really helped me to expand myself. And this in-depth understanding is really one of the most important aspects of what I thought I was able to learn from that, because otherwise you only learn about your country, you only learn about what you do, and when you're studying history and everything else, you only learn about history the way that you're taught to learn about history. And the beauty about learning about international relations is now you start to learn about how everybody views history, and it's a really important thing for all of us. I learned about how to make creative solutions. How do we solve problems in different ways, right? I mean, if we're going to talk about like if we're going to talk about a refugee crisis, right? Like, how are we going to solve that? Because of course it's like, well, one group can be like, well, yeah, it's pretty easy. We just close the border down. Don't let refugees come in. And then you have another group that's like, well, we're just going to let all the refugees. And the issue is that there isn't the only way to possibly solve a solution is to find a consensus among all those ideals, right? Kind of that idea that they always say, like the bet when you know that a negotiation goes well when no one is happy, like that's kind of what we learned in this, right? You learn how to get together in a group and solve problems together, like so important. How do we all work together to make something happen? How do we get together and fix what's going wrong? The importance of teamwork. Like I remember it's where I truly learned how to be a leader and step forward and come with ideas, and I'm gonna be the point man on like us coming up with this idea, but then also when to step back and say, you know what, I got to stand back and I got to listen to other people's ideas too. What do other people think? What do other people want to say? And ensuring, and that's a great part about like what I learned about leadership in general was this idea of when do I step forward and take that role? But even as a leader, you have to step back and you got to listen to other people. Being a leader is not about just, this is my idea and this is the way it is. It's about making sure that everyone feels heard. And I really learned that whenever I was in Model UN. And I also learned too that I really thought this is like important. Not every problem requires like some giant 32-point solution, right? Like sometimes the solution is there and it's very simple, but the only way to get there is with all of us working together and coming together in that discussion, right? And then finally, it comes to my point of a team solution it's just always better. A team solution, and I get an opportunity to work with a lot of teams, be it in my music world or other places where we're all working together to create something. And it's always better when that happens because everybody has their own idea, everybody has their own thought, everybody has their own eye of how things are supposed to go. And if we take a little bit from all that and we mold it together and we work on it and we really put our minds to it, we really find an opportunity to create an even better solution. And that's what I love about Model UN. All right, so here's another video that I want to show you guys. In this time of quarantine and I know that across the world we're all doing it differently. Here in the United States, in my opinion, we're not doing it so well. So we've spent a lot more time in quarantine. And since that, we actually went ahead and one of my bands that we're going to see, I got two videos here, but I wanted to show you this one. This is a video that myself and my band, the Red Light Brass Band, made. And we do a lot of stuff where we play at the Orange County Fair, and we do a lot of other very cool things like this. And we've done a lot of really cool stuff. We played the NBA All-Star game in Los Angeles. We've done a lot of really cool things. And so I kind of wanted to show you guys this. This is a video that we did, and it's a quarantine style video where I wrote the song, and then I sent it off to everybody. They recorded it together, and then I put everything back. And this tune's called Hard Pass.
Red Light Brass Band.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's always fun, man. I mean, I can't tell you that how much I enjoy this the opportunity to just decide how I was going to play music. You know, playing music is like so important to me. And you know, I come from like a relatively musical family. My grandmother was actually an opera singer. You know, but for me, I don't know, there was just something about playing music that was so good. It put me in this like special place where, you know, I really found that joy, and it's so much. It's so much, and it's so incredible, and I really love that. So, I'll go back to a little bit more about MUN because that's what that's what it's all about, right? You know, it allowed me to get this opportunity to really think outside of my bubble, right? And I can't stress this enough how important it is for all of us to get out of our bubble and get out of like just like where we live in this small like kind of, I don't want to say small minded, but in a way sometimes it is like this idea of the only thing that's going on in our world is what's happening in our immediate vicinity. And it's really important because, you know, for me, you know, I grew up, I'm a white American male living in Southern California. You know, I have this very American way of thinking, um, and it's important for us to engage in understanding different parts and different cultures of the world because it gives us an understanding that not everyone's reality is the same. So my reality and my world of growing up in Southern California and having this opportunity to like play music and do all this, I I began to recognize the fact that like that's a minority of what it is. And in fact, a lot of us, we're all minority in terms of our life, right? Like we all experience our life in a single way, and no one else is going to experience a life like ours. So it gave me that idea where I stopped thinking in terms of abstracts, you know, thinking about in terms of like, well, all these people act this way and all these people act this way, right? I got away from that because I started being, because of MUN, I started being able to see outside of my box and seeing how if you were living in a different part of the world, your experience was completely different. And what that did is it gave me this incredible amount of compassion for other individuals and for other cultures and other ways of thinking that I wouldn't have otherwise. And for me, that's a big thing. I think what we miss in this world and what you guys as future leaders, world leaders, are going to get to accomplish is the fact that we need to have compassion for everyone. And we need to have compassion for those who think differently than us, right? It's not just about, hey, you got to think the way I think. And that's the way it is. It's about the fact that we as a group, we as leaders need to sit down and we need to say to ourselves, okay, everyone has their way of living their lives, and we need to have that compassion so that then we're able to go forward and interact with them. And you know, there are people out there who do want to do bad things and harm us, absolutely. So how do we have enough compassion to go out and talk to those people and convince them that what they're doing is not good for the rest of the world? And that's important to me. That's what I really think MUN is great for. You know, it also, again, it helps you to learn about leadership. How do you step up and take the reins, right? Like, and understanding that like it's not about like you shoving your way and like seizing power. It's about how do you work your way up? How do you garner a group of individuals who are going to stand with you and say, yes, we're going to follow, we're following behind you, right? But you also like taking into account those people, right? A true leader takes everyone, every single person, and takes their account and then creates something that we can all work within, right? Every team needs a leader, and it's important because you learn that the buck stops with you when you're the leader, right? If something happens great, you get all the glory, right? It's like everybody talks about you, right? Even though it's a team effort, you know, you get all the glory. But on the other side of it, if something goes wrong, even if it's on the outside, you also get all the blame from the outside, right? So it's about learning. You kind of learn as a leader that you never take any victory as like this, like you never celebrate it like it's like the be all end all, the greatest thing ever, because we always know we're trying to get better and learn. But you also develop kind of this thick skin, this armor, that like when things go wrong and people start saying things to you or about you that aren't that flattering, which is going to happen no matter what industry you're in, you sort of learn how to get this thick skin and kind of push away from it and be like, no, it's okay. I can move around this, right? It's again, leadership is about involving every single person, even if it's a small little, even if it's the person who never talks and never speaks up and stands on the edge of the room, right? It's about finding a way to involve them. Because what you learn is that when you're a leader, when you involve everyone, people are much more willing to go along with whatever the decision is, right? So when people feel personally involved, they feel much more amenable to what is being done. And not only that, they will go out there and they will push for you because they feel like they're a part of it. Real leaders never push people away from them, because whenever you push people away from you, those people no longer are going to listen to anything you say. They're just going to go ahead and they're just going to blow off whatever you think, because they no longer have a personal feeling that that's important to them. There are natural leaders out there, but I say natural, like it's, yeah, of course there needs to be like some charisma there, and you need to have the intelligence and you need to have the wisdom, of course, but it's also about the fact that like anyone can become a leader. Anyone can step up, right? And for some people that's harder, for some people that's easier, that's fine. But what you have to do is you have to put yourself in that mindset of like, no, I can do this and I want to do this. And that's what's really important. All right. We also learn in MUN about organization. How do we delegate things? How do we give others a chance to shine? How do we construct the right team with the right people, right? We need to have the right people around us. We need to have people that are smart. There's always that idea of, if you're the leader, you should be the dumbest person in the room, right? Like, you should surround yourself with really intelligent, meaningful people who care about getting stuff done. And again, like that's what it is. Being a leader is not about, you don't have to be the guy who's always got, or gal who's always got the right answer, right? But you got to be the person who, and this is what the true mark of a good leader, who can bring together a bunch of different individuals, bring them into a room and organize them so that they all can have an important and interactive discussion to get to the goal that you're trying to lead them to, right? It's about how do you put those who need help with those who can help? Like that's a smart thing with a leader, right? If this person's having trouble doing this and this person can do this, put them together. You don't keep them apart, right? Let them work together so that everybody is getting better, right? And we want to always encourage rather than put down. We want to encourage everyone to be involved. It's not about like, oh, you're not helping, you're no good. It's about, no, you're not helping right now. Let's get in here and what do you have to say? Let's get this together. Let's work together, right? Okay, and then there's a lot of things. I love these quotes, right? One of my favorite quotes of all time, I believe it's a Muhammad Ali quote, is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? Like that's like, it's like so true, right? Like you go in and like, I don't know how many of you done it, but like, you're going in to do something and you're like, all right, here we go. I got this. We're going to make this happen. And as you do that, you go and something catastrophic happens right away. And it's like, okay, well, now you have to improvise. How are we going to figure it out, right? Life is a lot like jazz. It's better when you improvise. It's George Gershwin, and it really is. It's about learning that. And MUN taught me how to do that. Taught me how to think on my feet. How do I take a bunch of pieces that don't look like they fit together and find a way to put them together, right? Like, how do you? That's what's important. Improvisation in life and in international relations and in jazz and everything else, right? It's like, it gets like this connotation of like, oh, you're just making it up. It's not about just making it up. It's about taking all the knowledge that you have and finding a way to bring everything together, which is great. All right. So how does this help me in my current life? Well, my current life as a trumpet player, I improvise a lot, I study a lot, and I have to have these interpersonal skills, right? I mean, I've learned all of those things in MUN, right? As a composer and arranger, going from a like I go from a big idea, right? So I have this big idea of what I want to do, and then narrowing that down into the small ideas, the small parts that I need to get together to accomplish the big goal, right? Essentially like working backwards, which is important if you're going to be able to do this, right? And again, how do I include everyone? Right? How do I include everyone so everybody feels involved? But also more like, when do you feature people? When are the parts when you got to feature these individuals that should be featured? That's important, right? As an educator at MUN, helped me learn how to distill information quickly, how to quickly help people pick things up and pick up ideas, changing the way I'm saying stuff, and learned several different ways to describe ideas. As a music producer, I've learned how to delegate ideas. I've learned how to review others' work positively, right? Again, like building up rather than tearing down. This is a good one. How to deliver information without eliciting an unwanted response from others, right? How do you tell someone that what they're doing isn't working or isn't good without them getting defensive and trying to fight back on you, right? How do you deliver that? That's important. How do you frame your decisions? Like, if you make this decision and everybody's not going to be pleased, how do you frame it? How do you spin it in a way to where everybody understands and doesn't feel left out or angered by your decision? And again, also to understanding everybody's style of leadership in my group and what they need in order to be successful. That's what a good leader does. All right. So here's my takeaway from all this stuff. Okay. We need great leaders in our world, and you will be the ones who are going to step up in that. We need leaders who want to work with those who disagree with them. And as an American, I can't stress this enough. It's about us working with those we disagree with to come to a consensus, right? We need to continue purposeful and thoughtful and respectful discussions between people of all races, creeds, sexes, and beliefs. Like, we can't shun and look away from those we disagree with and from people who are different than us. We have to engage with them. It's the only way the world works. We need informed and educated individuals. You who are going to be the ones who are going to bring us together. We're depending on you. You guys are all at the age right now where you have the opportunity to learn about the world and come together, and you can make a decision. You can decide that you want the world to be better. And we need that from you. We need that. And again, I think this is so important. Hate has no place. We must work together as a world community. And hate and having the anger that we can have between us is never good. And so I can't like, again, stress this enough. Just because people tell you that you shouldn't like other people doesn't mean you can't go out there and find that out for yourself. And if we do that, we will be a much more successful world community. So I really want to stress that to you guys. All right, I got one more video, and then we'll do some Q&A. I really love this video, and it also has me singing a little bit like a champ here. So as we go through, you know, I really enjoy like working with you guys. It's like always so much fun to kind of come and talk to you guys. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to ask some questions, feel free to you know, just yell out, or I guess moderate. I can't remember. I think Paulo's gonna moderate, right?
Yes. Okay.
Sweet.
Yes. So there are some questions already on the in the chat, and so if more people would like to ask, please drop them out, and so I can read or just ask you to read out. And so the first question is from Iaya from Kuwait. Would you like please to read it out, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, if she would, if she, or if who is again? If they want to just ask it, they totally can.
Yeah.
Who is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you can just read it too. That might be
Okay.
easier.
I will do this. So, and so the first
Yeah.
question is, how did you know want to work as and will be successful at your what? Oh my God, this is kind of strange. How did you know what you want to work? I think that's it.
Uh-huh.
And will be successful at your choose. Yes.
Oh, my profession. So I mean, really, like for me, and I feel lucky in this respect. Like for me, like music was it was just all of a sudden, like one day, actually, it was where I discovered playing jazz. I just decided music is what I wanted to do. And nobody goes into music because they want to be rich. Like with the exception of like maybe some big time pop stars, like the majority of us make like not a ton of money for what we do. So because of that, we do it because we love it. And I didn't decide to go into music because I wanted to go into music. I decided to go into music because there was nothing else I would have been happy doing. And so that's the reason why I very much decided to go into playing music. Now, in terms of being successful, you know, I didn't know. I had no idea what level of success I was going to have. And I didn't go into it with an idea of, well, I'm going to be successful or I'm not going to be successful, because I got into playing music because I wanted to share art and I wanted to share the joy that music brings to everybody. Like every culture has music. And so I wanted to bring that to people. And that's what matters to me. So, I mean, you know, again, I think the way I chose to become a musician, it wasn't me choosing it. It was music actually kind of chose me.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. And so the next question is, how did you and your band get opportunities to play in many big places like the NBA?
I mean, realistically speaking, like all I do is like my business, as you'll find with many businesses, is all word of mouth and who you know. So I got lucky by knowing I had some people that I knew, and they knew some other people, and there was this company that was putting together the NBA All-Star game, and they were like, well, we need a band to like play outside for like people whenever they're walking by. And a friend of mine was like, who knew this guy, was like, yeah, hey, you can do this, like go do this. And so we said, okay, yeah, great, like we can do that, we can totally do that. So it was all word of mouth. Everything it's always word of mouth. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess everyone gets inspired by yourself. And so we have one question that's, what can you do as teenagers of 14 years old to impact the world?
Oh man, I mean, there's like so much that you guys can do, but I mean, my opinion, my like main opinion, I think right now is we need to, all of us, but especially those of you who are teenagers and they're going to move forward as leaders, really, I think you guys need to go out and you got to learn about other cultures and learn about other groups of people that live in the world, because as we move forward in time, we're becoming a much more international society where we have this like right now we have this opportunity to interact with all of you from across the world. You know, we just didn't have that whenever I was a teenager. It wasn't like that. And so with the way that technology has allowed us to have a voice across the you know, just worldwide and internationally, we need to learn more about other cultures and what other cultures do and how other cultures interact, because when we have that knowledge, it helps us again to find that compassion for everyone in every society. And that's what's important. That's what we really need. So for you guys right now, I think it's about learning about how the world comes together, how the world fits, but also to like get out there and and push the stuff. How do we battle climate change? Like things like that. How do we battle human trafficking? How do we battle refugee crises? How do we do these things? How and you guys, even at a young level, you can get your peers together, and you can organize, and you can make decisions, and you can say, hey, this is not right. You can do that, and it's important for all of you to have that voice. So that's what I would say as teenagers: get out there, have a voice, and learn about the world.
Okay, that is a really good question here. That how does a good leader deal with disagreements in their team?
Well, I mean, there's always going to be disagreements, right? And so the question becomes this, and this, I think this is first and foremost whenever you go about it, is what is the end goal, right? As a leader, that's really your job, right? Your job is what is the end goal, and how do I put everyone in the best position for their skills to shine to get us to that end goal, right? So whenever there are disagreements, obviously like getting people together to talk it out and have discussions is very important. But I think even more important though too, it's about you also have to sometimes as a leader understand when you have to like take someone aside by themselves and talk to them and explain to them what we're trying to accomplish here, and how important it is for them to do their specific job. And a lot of times disagreements happen, a lot of times because people are stepping on each other's shoes, right? And so as a leader, it's about you making sure that everyone understands their place, has their role, has their lane, if you will, and they stay in that and interact together, right? So when it comes down to it, communication is everything. So as long as we're all talking to each other and we're all speaking to each other, we're going to minimize disagreements because everybody's going to feel heard, and that's what's important.
Okay, thank you. Next one is any tips for a guitarist? I write instrumental stuff mostly, but there is a very small audience for it. And there's a very similar one that I bought a guitar last year, but haven't learned it or played it. So how do I motivate myself? And so it's very
I mean, so I think the first thing that I would say is, what is the music you love the most, right? And listen to it. And then while you're listening to it, just try to figure it out. Just take out the guitar. And I mean, I used to do it with my trumpet all the time. I still do. Take out your guitar or your instrument and just try to figure out, can you play that song? Like just the melody, like can you just play the melody to the song? You don't have to even do anything, right? Or if you're thinking that, for some people too, like it's motivational just to like make songs, to create your own songs. And so especially right now that we don't get to play a lot with other individuals, that's tough because the best part about making music is making music with others. But there is that opportunity that's there. In terms for any tips for guitarists, I mean, it goes for any instrumentalist. The most important thing is to play. And so, even if you're going out, and here we call it busking, even if you're going out and you're just playing on the street, and you're just playing tunes and you're just kind of learning that way, put a hat out, maybe you make some tips or something like that. Obviously like do it in like a safe place and make sure that that's okay by the city ordinances. Like there's certain places in the States where we can't do that. But like go out there and like play for people. Like when you're young, the most important thing you can do is play as much as possible and just try new stuff. And the more you play, the more inspired you're going to be to continue to play.
Okay, thank you. Next one is how has the COVID-19 impacted musicians? How do the best leaders deal with very difficult periods such as the current pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of the COVID has pretty much destroyed the music industry for the most part. Music, the great thing about music and what we use music for is to bring people together and people to have fun. Like we bring people together so they can listen to music, dance to music, enjoy music. And we don't get to do that right now. So it's tough. It's really tough. I would probably play live for people like on gigs and stuff, I would probably do that like in a 7-day week. I'd probably do that like 5 to 9, 10 times a week. Which was a lot for me, which was great. And that went from that to now none. So it's a lot. It's very difficult. And there are a lot of people who have left my industry simply because they can't afford to stay in my industry. I've been lucky because of my teaching that I can still do educational teaching online through Zoom. Like I teach a lot of music lessons. I teach trumpet lessons, and I teach composition lessons, arranging lessons, music theory lessons. I'm able to teach that online, which really helps me. But for the most part, it is really, really made things hard. Now things are coming back. Like we are starting to like work gigs. Like I have a gig tomorrow. I had one last week. So there are little things coming back, but certainly not in the way that it once was. And so the ways that we've had to deal with that is by doing these things like making the videos like I showed you guys, right? Like that first video that I showed you that we did from quarantine and doing that. But it has also helped us too, where like I've gotten a chance to really work on things in my own playing and my own music making that I had never had the opportunity or the time to do. So it has also slowed my world down a lot, which has been incredibly helpful as well. So, I mean, that's how we've all been dealing with it as band leaders.
Okay, so for the next question is, nowadays musician isn't that precious anymore, but actually for me, music and musician is really precious. I want to ask you your opinion, why people don't see the musician in the special way they used like to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of that again just has to deal with technology, right? Like, whenever I was a teenager, I had to go out and buy like an actual physical CD of music, right? So I had to save up money for this like $18 CD, and I would take it home. And until I could save up that money to buy the next CD, that was the only thing I got to listen to, right? So I became very acquainted. And the idea of having music accessible to me, it was basically a CD I had, or I had to listen to radio, and that was it, right? So it made it like this very special thing because it was truly a commodity, right? It was truly something that you could only get. You had to work to get. You had to try to get it. Whereas now, and I'm guilty of this as well. I pull up Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music or Tidal or whatever, go to Bandcamp websites, and I can listen to, there's more music on there than I could ever listen to in my lifetime. And so the thing is that we've made music and entertainment just in general so much easier to get, that it kind of has taken away the allure of what it once was, where you had to go out and seek it, or you had to go out and to see a concert, you had to go and be there, whereas now you can just turn on YouTube and you can watch the concert. And for those of us who have done live music and gone to live concerts, I can tell you right now that it is in no way as much fun as being there in person. Being there in person is something incredibly special, but we've kind of lost that. And so I think that's the reason why musicians and music in general has sort of become more of just an expectation, is because now we can really get a lot of it just for free at our fingertips whenever we want it. And so, I mean, it's up to us as musicians, and up to the public as music listeners and enjoyers to come to a consensus about how are we going to do that so that musicians can continue making music and make a living, and we can all still enjoy what we want to listen to.
Okay, thank you so much for the answering, for your inspiring words. Our time is running away, and so we have to go and this.
All right.
Okay.
Well, good. I appreciate you guys having me. I want to thank Cody, especially because he's Cody and I have known each other since before being teenagers. So I really want to thank you, and I want to thank all of you. It's so great. I love doing this. I love seeing like that I get to talk to people from all over the world. It's so much fun to me, and it's an incredible thing. So I look forward to seeing what all of you guys do and seeing the world that we get to live in the next 30, 40 years. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.